rats in 1905, you know? I had a mouse try to nibble my finger this week. It was unbelievable. God. I was in my recliner and like, you know, like there's kind of like holes in it, you know, or whatever. And the mouse, like, I guess snuck up the back of the chair, and I just had a chocolate chip cookie, so I had like the smell of cookie on me. And I just felt these little teeth, and it didn't even break the skin. It was just like he was like sniffing and nibbling a little bit to like see what it was. And of course, immediately I was like, "What the crap?" You know, like I'm like jumping up out of my chair, and Fran's like, "What happened?" I'm like, "I think I just got bit." So that was a bit of a traumatic evening. Yeah.
You didn't mousetrap Ratatouille, did you?
Oh no, we're killing mice all over the place around here, man.
We can talk about this on the actual podcast, but that's actually one of my fears for when New York City reopens.
Oh, is it the rats will be all over the place?
That like the next time I go to a theater, whether it's like a Broadway theater or like movie theater, I mean, surely those places, I mean, like the movie theater, how can it not be full of rats right now? Like,
oh, that's terrible.
How can it not? And like, you'll be in there, you'll be like eating your popcorn and something will come up and be like, hey, welcome to my theater. I don't know. That's just like,
that's awesome. All right. Are we ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. I hit record. Welcome back to Marvel News Desk, your best place to keep up with all the latest news, reviews, and speculation concerning Marvel films and TV show. It's shows. We're out of practice. I'm Caleb. We've got Rhiannon. We've got Adam.
Yeah.
We're back. If you're wondering why we hadn't recorded in the last couple weeks, it's mostly because A, there's not been anything happening, and B, I think we've been trying to deal with the pandemic and all those things. So we decided this week to get back on the horse, and then we got gifted with news. That was good.
Yeah. Like, I've oddly been way less bored than expected. Like, we expected when we last podcasted, we were like, we'll probably be so bored we'll podcast all the time. And I'm like, I would just like a break.
Likewise.
So I wanted to ask this, like at the top, people have talked about like, oh, you're going to have more free time on your hands. Do either of you feel like you have more free time on your hands?
No way. I have 2 jobs and they're both work from home.
I feel like I have more free time on my hands, but in that I feel like I'm not having to commute and stuff. But on the flip side, I feel like I have more people checking in on me. Like, I feel like the social engagements have gone up. Because if my grandmother calls me and I do not answer in 3 rings, she assumes I'm dead. So I'm spending so much more time. And like last night, my whole family had trivia night on Zoom and stuff like that. So like, I feel like it's just as busy as normal.
Yeah. When you have children, it's worse than normal. Because there is so much extra parenting I have to do now. Like, I have to help them with their school, and I have to help them figure out how to use the technology. And you're also just spending extra time with them to make sure they're not being mentally scarred by the fact that they're growing up in the world where, a virus is killing people in the streets. Like, there's just a lot of work to having my kids around 24/7. And I used to get a break when I could ship them to school,
I suppose that's what Disney Plus has come in for a little bit of help, huh? Or not?
Yeah, no, Disney Plus is excellent. If nothing else, we spent 10 minutes the other day shuffling our avatars once we all were able to become X-Men characters.
So. You didn't choose Cyclops, did you?
No, absolutely not. So
Michael T. Ford says we still have to do the book club.
We do.
We do.
Have it right here.
If we need the pandemic book club.
I was reading it yesterday or the day before.
So what he's holding up is Vision.
Oh yeah, I forget.
Yeah, this is a podcast.
Vision.
We're only 151 episodes.
The director's cut. I love reading Tom King's scripts because it's super, super moody and Batman-y. But,
Mm.
yeah, let's do Vision. I'm down. It's the best comic I've ever read, so whatever.
You guys get on that. You guys make the reading assignments, and I'll try to. Yeah.
Okay. I'll put a schedule out. We'll see. We should have at least another 4 weeks of this. So. Oh no! That laugh from Rhiannon was like, no, you're gonna be stuck inside much longer than that.
No, that laugh was more that like last time we did that. Yeah, your obsession with when this is going to be over. You're like one of the first people that I know that obsessed over that. And I mean, I think 4 weeks. Sure, 4 weeks sounds great. I think it'll be different throughout the country.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if you know, Rhiannon, but you are persona non grata now in Rhode Island. Our governor has been like hardcore going after New Yorkers.
I saw that you guys were going door to door, like the New York Post, so I'm not sure if that's even legit.
No, they're sending Rhode Island state troopers to like oceanside communities, and if they see like New York plates at houses, they're knocking on the door and asking them to leave and go back to New York.
Oh my God, if they did that to me, I would stop at every drive-thru on the way out. But I wouldn't. But like, so I get it. I mean, I think I get it. I thought they got in trouble for targeting in that situation, and now they're doing all out-of-state plates.
Right.
I definitely, so since we last podcasted, I hopped on a plane and went to North Carolina. And then my boss was like, hey, what the heck? You work in emergency management. And I hopped on a plane and came back to New York City. So like I definitely had people like really upset with me for that little jaunt, because who knows what I could have been carrying. You know, one day I was on the New York City subway. The next day I was on a flight to North Carolina. I was super careful about it. I wore a mask in the airport, a little homemade mask. So, you know, who knows how effective. Went straight to the car, went to my parents' house, didn't leave my parents' house until I went back to the airport and flew back. And it's been over 2 weeks and my parents haven't come down with it or anything. But I get the paranoid. And I mean, and I've definitely had friends that are like, I can't believe you did that. That is so irresponsible. But yeah, the weird thing is how New York City is absolutely no different when you never leave your apartment. Like I forget that the city is different at all out there until like the rare times that I leave my apartment and walk around and I'm like, oh, this is different. This is weird. This is shut down. So.
No, it's been a real interesting thing. It's not just Rhode Island. I guess places like Cape Cod and Nantucket too. There's a lot of these communities in New England where like people own vacation homes. And understandably, there's people like from New York that go, oh, we'll go to our place on the Cape to get away from the virus. And those places have been shutting down. Like Nantucket's like, don't come here. I don't care if you have a vacation home here. We don't want anyone coming onto the island because we're trying to save ourselves from this virus. And there's been this like real political debate of like, if you pay property taxes on a home that you own in Nantucket, should you have the right to be there? And the local government's like, we don't give a flip about your rights. We're trying to save our people from the virus. And like, it's caused this real interesting tension in vacation communities about like who counts as our people or not, you know?
Yeah. And I talked to somebody like Dare County, North Carolina is another community like that. Their first case was somebody from New York City that escaped to Dare County. It's a coastal community in North Carolina. And their first case was a New Yorker that came. And I mean, my personal thoughts, and none of these reflect anything about my employer or anything. My personal thoughts are, if you are not leaving your apartment, if you're not leaving your house, if you are driving to Cape May and you are going into your house and you are not leaving your house, I don't see what difference it makes.
Right.
If you show up with your groceries, but if you're there and you're like, oh, thank God I'm out of New York, I'm going to go hang out at the pub because they haven't had to shut down yet. And once I get there, I'm going to do all my grocery shopping. Then I think that's a little bit inconsiderate to communities that might otherwise not have had the spread. So I haven't looked into it that much. like I said, I tried to be very good on my jaunt. I was talking to somebody recently that lives in Manhattan and has a home like in Idaho. And I was like, holy crap, why are you writing this out in Manhattan when you have a home in Idaho? And then Idaho had a 6.5 earthquake. I mean,
What?
they like knew that was happening, but they had a 6.5 earthquake
Right.
in Idaho. So I was like texting and I was like, so I guess you made the right choice. Like, or I guess you're just like darned if you do, darned if you don't. Like, so yeah, 6.5 earthquake in Idaho.
Yeah. Were you gonna say something, Adam?
No, I thought you were first. I'm trying to connect the "we got to see the baby" joke from Seinfeld with all the stuff. And then second, I thought no, I was just gonna say I thought you were actually gonna drop like your first ever F-bomb when you said "what the flip," because the L was actually sounding like the U for a little bit. I'm like, whoa, but that's besides the point. I don't have anything to update on that front. I think my lifestyle's changed very little. So I'm not sure what that says for me. I mean, it's the bad thing is it's like business as usual here all around. Nothing's shut down
So
whatsoever.
nothing's changed.
No way. I mean, all the factories, all the.
So your movie theater still open?
You think we have a movie theater? No, the
Okay.
closest movie theater is not open. But I mean, we have one convenience store. I mean, we don't have the cafe already closed down. So, rural Iowa and the western part of the state has virtually not changed at all. They won't let you take your mugs into the Casey's General Store, but
Yep.
you can still go in there and buy whatever.
Yeah.
So that's probably going to everyone probably has it here because no one's doing anything. I mean, Walmart is. I tried to get into Walmart yesterday and I got turned away by the bouncer and tell me I have to wait and stuff because they're at capacity. I'm like, man.
You get turned away by the bouncer at Walmart. You are.
Well, are you saying like, is there's a dress code here now or what? Like,
You were dressed too nice to be allowed in.
It was funny because it was actually a person I went to school with too. I'm like, oh, come on, man, just let me in. They're like, no, we have the rules. Like, all I, do
last thing I did before leaving North Carolina was go to Walmart and just lick a few things. Just
that's what I was nervous about, just going in. I don't know where the people were. I saw like 2 other people in there, so I'm not sure if their capacity is like 3 people.
The article said they were cutting it down to 20% of whatever the normal building allowance is.
Yeah.
So like it's per 1,000 square feet. It's so many people per 1,000 square feet.
Yeah, 3. No, that's 50%.
Yeah.
No, I just had to go get a case of the new Mountain Dew, which is good, by the way. That's essential, right? Or am I supposed to be getting my water in now?
No, Mountain Dew's essential, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Mountain Dew sounds essential. Yeah. I know I've been drinking far more Coca-Cola than I could do a whole podcast on just how I've changed my life for the apocalypse. But I mean,
what have I told you my immunity plans? Like,
No.
I've been drinking more pop for
does it involve licking things at Walmart?
A little bit, and having people sneeze in my face. But then the third part is increasing my soda intake because what happens like when the wells and the stuff dry up in the apocalypse, right? You have to boil water and stuff. But I mean, soda's going to stay shelf stable for a little bit, right? I mean, it might go flat. So maybe if I build up my tolerance for soda and caffeine,
Michael T. Ford wants to know, and I think this is an important question. Did you get the Mountain Dew flavored Doritos?
No, those are only in Australia, I think, unless they are coming to the States. I honestly thought you guys remember that Monster Energy lunch meat ham prank that went around. I thought it was an April Fool's prank, but I double checked with Mountain Dew and it's legit. They're doing it in Australia, whatever.
I have found my big quarantine food pick is right now Sprite has a Sprite Zero Ginger. So
Yeah.
it's like kind of Sprite, kind of ginger ale. It's awesome. It is
It's
excellent.
very good. It's very good.
Hmm.
I thought Sprite was kind of like a ginger ale the way before, but apparently it's not.
No, it's a lemon lime soda. It's supposed to taste like lemons, and then ginger ale is supposed to taste like ginger.
So I found the perfect chocolate chip cookie recipe. I've been baking. I've been doing bake it till we make it. I've made the most perfect chocolate chip cookies. I have bacon cheddar scones in the fridge right now to go in the oven whenever we're done podcasting.
Ooh.
I've been drinking more Coca-Cola. I've had prepared food delivered so that I won't have to go to the grocery stores. I did one of those meal subscription kits. I'm eating well.
Yeah. My wife came home yesterday and she couldn't find flour at the grocery store, but she heard we have like a restaurant supply store in our neighborhood that sells like paper goods and stuff. And she's like, I'm going to go pick up some flour. And I was like, okay. She comes home with this bag that's like bigger than like a bag of mulch. It like weighs more than two of our kids, just full of flour. I was like, that's what you meant by some flour? And she's like, well, it's the only way I can get it. So I just bought a lot of it.
Well, I think I saw her in our baking community. So that little Facebook group, I'm in a Facebook group with a friend of mine that has 2.5 little girls running around. One of them's her husband's. I don't think she's there all the time. But she's doing things that you can bake like with your kids and stuff, or without your kids, or to deal with your kids. And it's been a lot of fun. So we made scones this morning.
You said 2.5 kids, and all I could think of was Saga. Adam, have you been reading Saga?
Oh.
The Ghost Babysitter. No, it's from the beginning. The Ghost Babysitter that's only half a kid.
Right. Yeah. I've read the first 6. No, not 6. That's probably all there are. The first 4 or 5 volumes in the last issue. And it was really out of context, but it was still. Ugh.
Yeah, I have the big thick omnibus, the one that they put out with the first half of it or whatever. So
I'm almost disappointed they're actually thinking about bringing it back. I think it's good enough where it is. I don't want to spoil it.
Okay.
But you've read. I mean, you're totally caught up, I assume.
No. I'm close. I'm through the first 37 issues or something like that. Out of how many have they done now? 58 or something?
Yeah, I thought it was 50. Maybe it is 58. I don't know. Somewhere in the 50s, I thought.
Okay.
But Caleb, yeah, I can't wait. I need to live stream your reaction while reading it or something.
Okay, that could be interesting. It certainly is a little off of my usual tenor of comics.
It's so good though. Plus, it's your dude Brian K. Vaughan. So
yeah, I love him. All right, let's talk about Marvel. I know it took a while to get there, but if you thought we were going to talk about Marvel for an hour, you're crazy. There's not that much to talk about. Yesterday, we got from the trades a report of the plan of what they're going to do with the movies. Basically, everything's getting shifted back. Black Widow is going to go into the November slot where Eternals was. Eternals goes to February of 2021. Shang-Chi moves to May of 2021. Doctor Strange 2 then shifts to November of 2021. Spider-Man 3 seems to keep its spot for now. Thor Love and Thunder now kicks to February 2022. And then Black Panther is staying in 2022, and Captain Marvel 2 is definitely in July of 2022. I don't know.
And there's still the October 2022 date. And correct. They removed an early 2022 date. February or March, was it?
I don't think they've removed any Marvel dates.
Yeah, it was an entitled Marvel project.
Yeah, there was an untitled Marvel movie that that disappeared.
Right, which we think is Ant-Man 3, probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that what was originally in that February slot that now goes to Thor Love and Thunder most people I saw were predicting that was going to be Ant-Man 3. Which is certainly the movie farthest along that now has no release date. So, I mean, let's just first of all talk about those delays. I mean, it's disappointing, I think, for everyone, but at this point, it kind of made sense that this is what they were going to do. I mean, seems a necessary correction.
Right. I wonder if they will be good with this or there will have to be more delays. I don't know. Hope so. It's going to be 493 days between Marvel movies.
I mean, we seem to think Black Widow's in the can, right? Like, they have the movie. It's just about having a ability to show it to the public.
They had been doing some reshoots, I thought. Or at least they just got done with reshoots.
I mean, I think it's less than just in the can. I think they want to make sure they can do the full press tour. Like right now, you're not going to be sending ScarJo around the world to, advertise this everywhere. So that's my guess.
Right. It is certainly, I don't know, Black Widow never, I don't know if it feels like a great November play. It's interesting that it and Bond are now together again, like close to each other, except for Black Widow's first this time.
And it got a new composer, which is weird. Like, we were a month away, and they're deciding to rescore it for whatever reason.
Doesn't that almost feel like they always hated the score, but they were just going to deal with it? And now that they have extra time, they're like, okay, we can fix that.
It's just bizarre. I mean, it seems like the writers have changed as well. And then the final credits and stuff, or at least the trailer credits, were completely different from than what we thought was going on. Like, Thor Ragnarok guy got top credit. I don't know. I guess the new person, I don't know who the new person is. I think he did one of the Bond films. Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. Black Widow composer.
It does suggest that Disney feels comfortable that theaters are going to be open again in November. Like, it doesn't seem like they would set these dates unless they had expectations that things will be back to normal by the fall.
Things better be back to normal by November.
Yeesh.
I mean, if things are not better by November, this will be a very different world in many, many ways, and Black Widow will be the least of our concerns.
Right. The Walt Disney Company may not exist anymore.
I actually think it's weird that they waited until November, because I still hold on to what I said the last time we podcasted. Those first movies, after they reopen theaters, they're going to make bank, because people are just so excited. People will be so excited to just get out.
Yeah.
And guess what it is now?
What is it?
Can't wait. Venom 2.
I mean, but
it's one of the earliest ones, baby.
But it'll be something like a Venom 2, and it will make so much money where it wouldn't have before, because, but that's like with this mindset that one day the theaters are closed, the next day they're open. In reality, it'll probably be the theaters reopen in some communities, and then couple weeks later in some. But I say that first movie, when New York, Los Angeles, DC, when the big cities have their theaters open, that movie is going to make so much money because people are just ready to get out.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting, though. I'm fascinated with like what psyches will be like when this is over. Like, are people going to be like, oh, yes, we're finally free, let's go do stuff? Or is it going to be like, well, listen, we think it's safe to go back now. Just make sure you wear a mask and gloves to the theater. Like, are there going to be some people that are like, no, I'm not going to go to the movie theater yet. Like, they're going to like slowly put themselves back into society instead of just jumping right back into going to a room with 500 people in it,
So I think this is interesting because when I talk to people that live in New York, they're like, "Oh my God, yes, people are going to want to get out." When I talk to people that live like in rural areas, they're like, "Yeah, people are going to learn how comfortable their couch is. You know, they're going to upgrade their audio, their home video stuff." So I think there might be like a divide in urban versus rural in that regard, but we'll see.
It was interesting. Michael T. Ford, actually, I saw this morning, shared an article about how the Chinese film industry is like really encouraging more and more direct to home releases because they basically don't want to open up theaters because they don't want to do things that might spike the infection rate. And so, like, internationally, the Chinese are just like, yeah, let's get back to normal life. Not quite movie theaters, though. Just keep streaming that crap to people's houses, you know?
Right. I really thought we might see something like that with Mulan. But I don't know. I don't think it'll still make its July date. They pushed that to July, right?
Yeah, I think so.
While every other studio had recently delayed their July movies. So maybe that's the theory there.
Yeah, I think right now the first big release that's scheduled is Pixar Soul is still technically supposed to open in June.
June? Paramount hasn't moved the SpongeBob movie either, I don't think.
They have. It's been shoved back to July. Yeah. Do you think this could be good for the MCU, that people now have more time to finish these projects that they're doing?
Scott Derrickson was tweeting about that yesterday.
Poor guy. I feel bad for him.
That's the first thing. I wanted to write up like a piece so bad, but I got axed. That's the one thing the guy wanted was more time to develop his project, right?
Yeah.
Well, oops.
What'd Scott say, Rhiannon?
I mean, just basically, he thinks they'll be higher quality movies. These movies that are getting the extra time before release, they'll get higher quality. My thought on that, though, is time is money. So, like, if you have a budget of $10 million for VFX, just because we now have 5 months, doesn't mean you now have $50 million for VFX. Like, those people have to be paid to do that work. Now, I mean, maybe there's a little bit like where previously you would have been paying overtime and, you know, your VFX crew was going to have to be working, your special effects folks were going to have to be working 12-hour days. So they were getting paid overtime and all that. So that budget, you know, goes to doing things fast. And now that budget can be that they can like take their time and make it look good and sleep on it. But I don't think necessarily 5 months goes into like a super awesome product. But I think we will get things a little bit better.
Now, I know in video gaming, they have this thing called crunch where they just make people work like ridiculous hours for the same amount of pay to make sure something gets done. Do VFX companies have like better labor practices in place, or does that happen with VFX people sometimes?
I follow one VFX person on Twitter, so I'm hardly educated on this. I don't know if they have a union, because like I know Directors Guild, Actors Guild, all of those are unions.
There's a society. Does that count?
I don't know if that works like with labor agreements, because I know in Script Notes recently they were talking about like the lesser the trades that are involved, you know, like folks that do work on movie and television production but don't have unions. And basically, I don't remember where VFX falls on that, but I don't think they do. I don't think they have that kind of protection. I think they're pretty abused.
There's the gaming stuff. That's definitely, I don't want to say bigger or more important. It has the notoriety, I guess, because VFX people are they're still very much at work now, so I don't think the crunch here will come into play. I talked to two yesterday, and they're both actively working on Marvel movies now.
So I was wondering that. That's really interesting. They have enough CPU power and stuff at home that they can.
Yeah. So they both. It's an industry. I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to say this out there. There's a thing in place where so how they even worked before, right? With all the security and stuff, is they wouldn't let them have their own computers at work. They I call them thin clients. I'm not sure what the industry thing is, but it's a really dumbed down computer tower that you access a remote connection the way it was, right? So they have like a supercomputer in this server room that's locked. And even when they're at the office, they use this thin client or remote PC to access that supercomputer that's locked that has all the
Oh,
files and
so
stuff.
all the like horsepower is somewhere at a central
Else,
HQ.
right?
It's not
So
actually in the
that's the
computer you're working
biggest,
on.
right? So they could have worked from home regardless. Um, but I know there's at least two, like I said,
Yeah.
that are doing it now with no change to their workloads, I guess. But I'm not sure if that was PR talk or what the deal was. I know the Eternals; they're still working on visual effects for the Eternals.
Yeah.
Um, so they're still trying to make movies.
I mean, part of what's interesting to me about these shifts is the way it changes the movie a little bit. So, like, we had talked about Eternals maybe having some award buzz. That certainly is going to be hurt by a February release instead of a November release, unless the Oscars changes the rules, which haven't seen any suggestion that they will. I mean, I feel like that shifts that movie, and the other thing that's really interesting is it makes Shang-Chi a May movie. May has traditionally been their like giant tentpole movies, and you usually like Guardians and Black Panther had to prove themselves before they got a May release slot for their sequels. But it means Shang-Chi now, I mean, that movie becomes a big deal that they're going to try to launch that franchise in the biggest slot that they have every year.
Right. Right. I suppose we'll see. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they worried much about switching it. I don't think they really put too much thought into it. I guess. Right. I think they just kind of delayed everything. I mean, right now Spidey's still on. There's no way Spider-Man's going to make its July release day next year, right?
To me, it speaks a lot to the interconnectedness. They clearly couldn't throw Shang-Chi before Eternals, or they couldn't shuffle the order of these movies, because they probably have a big impact on each other. You know, like the ones that are already in progress definitely probably had to come out in this specific order. And that was probably more important than February or May.
Right.
I mean, they're still early enough. They could probably tweak Shang-Chi a little bit, right? Story wise or character wise or what have you. Certainly extra credits wise, post credits, extra credit.
Yeah.
Also, we've talked about cursed productions. Can you imagine being on that movie? Like, the movie starts with wildfires in Australia and then it gets hit with coronavirus. Like, oh gosh.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. You brought it up, Caleb. What's everyone going to think once this ends? I mean, if this drags out till June, I mean, all the supermarkets here and stores here, and I'm sure out there, have done the whole plastic dividers and all sorts of protections and stuff. I mean, obviously, those are going to stay in place now, right? And I mean, if someone coughs, people are going to scurry.
I think we're going to be more germophobic generally, you know.
Right.
I think it'll be more and more common. You know how like you see like videos of Tokyo or whatever, and there's people walking around with masks on, and that's just kind of normal. But here in the States, we kind of always felt like people were weird. I think, like, particularly in a place like New York, I think you'll see more people when they're sick wearing a mask, and it'll just become like more normalized, you know. All right. on the release date stuff, I think. Well, let's talk about Ant-Man 3 quickly. It seems like that movie is the odd man out. It we thought was headed for a February 2022 release, and now we know it can't come until October 2022, and we're pretty sure that that's their Blade date. So, does it disappoint you? Also, while we're talking about these things,
Jeff Loveness.
yeah, Jeff Loveness from Rick and Morty has been hired to write that movie.
Also with the Killer Nova comic run. And Groot as well. He did the Groot solo series. His Nova run was exceptional. I don't want to say it was the Annihilation caliber Nova stuff, but he brought Nova back from the Cancerverse and such. It's very good. It's entertaining. It's funny. It's goofy. So it's totally on brand for the Ant-Man franchise. He's done Kimmel stuff. He's done Oscars and Emmy Award writing jokes and such. Joke writing. So it's pretty good. I mean, he's probably going to be one of how many writers that get a credit?
Right. It almost felt to me like they announced that news because they knew people were going to freak about Ant-Man 3 kind of being taken out of the production queue, at least according to release dates. So it's almost like that bit of info got dropped by Disney to go, hey, we still are making an Ant-Man 3. Don't freak out. Like it's just going to come later. We've already seen this with Guardians, right? Guardians 3 has been delayed significantly by years. And so Disney will get to it. It just takes time.
Right. Michael T. Ford says that one panel from Nova was one of my all-time favorites, and I think I know what he's talking about, and I'm going to try getting it so we can pull it up. But it's hilarious. It's just peak comic booky. It explains Marvel to a T, and I'm surprised Marvel let him put it in there. I'll have to find it, though. Oh, right here it is. Podcast audio listeners can't see it because I remembered before.
I can't either, so.
Yeah, I don't. Hold on. I'm saving it, but we will read it to you, or someone will read it to you, or it could be a Patreon exclusive, so, whatever. Okay, let's see how this works. How do I upload it?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
There's a little button over to the left on mine. There's one that's round that looks like a bullseye, and then there's another one.
There we go. There's a big old upload arrow right there. How you guys been? It's been like a month.
We're good.
So I had a headache for 3 days this past week. So obviously I was dying. Yeah. Obviously I was dying. I share crap like that on Twitter, but not Facebook because I feel like I need to share it with the world, but my parents and grandma doesn't read Twitter. So gotcha. I don't put the scary stuff on Facebook. But the headache went away. I survived. I don't think it was the coronavirus. But otherwise good. I worked out yesterday for the first time. My personal trainer did a little Skype session with me.
Oh, I can see that, Adam. Kind of.
I can't make it bigger unless I hide you. So, okay. Nova, Richard Rider, comes back from the Cancerverse, so he's gone, right? And this is Nova, so Sam Alexander's here, plus the champions, Viv, Cyclops, Miss Marvel, and Miles. So Rich goes, "You're Miss Marvel?" And Kamala says, "Yup." And he goes, "What happened to Carol?" And Kamala says, "You mean Captain Marvel?" And then Nova says, "He's dead," referring to Marvel. And she's not. "And you're Spider-Man?" "Yeah." "Is he dead?" referring to Peter Parker. "No." "Cyclops is dead, though." Cyclops. And then young Cyclops comes in. It's crazy. And I butchered the delivery, but you guys understand it. Read Nova.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's on brand. It's it's good. Read it if you want. I mean,
yeah,
y'all have time now, anyways. It's got to be on unlimited.
I'm almost caught up on my Marvel Unlimited. I only have 10 issues of anything left before
Caught
I'm
up?
finally caught
You've
up.
read everything besides 10 issues on Marvel Unlimited?
No, but of the things that I'm going to read, yeah.
So that's another thing we could potentially talk about if you guys want to get into that. But when the hell are we going to have comics again?
Right?
Never?
Right? They
It's so
delayed
weird.
Daredevil 20. I need Daredevil 20. If you guys are not reading Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil
so good.
run,
It's very
you
good.
need to. Well,
So
it started
Adam,
off very strong.
remind us, Adam, what's going on here. Like, Diamond Distributors is where all the comic books come from, and they're not feeling like they can safely operate.
Right.
And-
So once upon a time, Marvel and DC had like their own distributors and stuff. Then this guy named Steve buys the distributors and forms a monopoly with Diamond. It's like a Maryland-based company. So what publishers do, so how comics work, obviously, it's all based on the pre-ordering, right? I think Matt kind of explained it when he was on here. But they only print as many issues as people order. essentially. Obviously, they print a little more and whatnot, but that's why there's the final on-call date or the final cutoff date, because then Diamond sends that to the publishers who then print the issues. And then once those are printed, they get sent back to Diamond, and Diamond distributes them to the stores and stuff. So now Diamond, it's the dominoes effect, right? Most governors shut down non-essential retail, which means comics are technically non-essential. Who would have thunk? So obviously, with fewer comic stores buying stuff, Diamond doesn't have the cash flow to continue operating. So Diamond says, we're going to shut down for however long. So as it stands now, there is no one to distribute comics. And the common consensus makes it seem like these publishers don't want to go digital first. Obviously, you're going to have throwback or what am I trying to say? Not throwback, feedback or whatever from the stores, because stores want print copies, right? They don't want people to go digital. Same way why movie theaters want cinematic releases.
But then this week, didn't they make a deal where now you can buy them digitally?
No, that fell apart. Okay, so then there's this thing called Comics Hub, right? That's being heralded on Twitter. It's a game changer for comics. So Comics Hub was started by 2 retail stores, and it was involved by they were developing like a software where you could buy the code digitally and somehow manage to turn that code into a physical copy later. But no one else liked that. So that went from changing the comics industry to not existing within the span of 48 hours.
So now we're
back almost like nothing. They did. Yeah, now we're back to nothing. DC's not doing anything for the foreseeable future. I spoke with my guy at Dark Horse, and they have no idea what to do. I mean, they can't sell comics, right? Because a lot of these things might have exclusive agreements with Diamond for distribution rights, and they can't.
So uninformed, ignorant opinion from me. Should we just kill Diamond? Like, Diamond feels like it's been a problem for a long time.
Right.
Well, and I was about to say, I think any contract, like if Diamond is saying we will not print your comics, any contract exclusivity that says, Diamond's the only one that can print your comics is null and void because they can't hold their end of the bargain.
And furthermore, this past week, Diamond also came out and said that they are holding payments, right? So then Diamond would then obviously accept payment from the comic stores and such, and then bump that out to the publishers for selling their comics, except those payments are now not arriving because Diamond did not have enough money to last one damn week, apparently. So it's just a huge cluster. Beep. I don't know. Marvel came out and said that they're essentially canceling a third of the line. They said that they're temporarily putting pencils and pens and fingers down order on 1/3 of their books. But they were gonna. Those were probably all books that were 6-issue runs or cancellations, anyways, right? I have no idea what books those are. I would assume 0 X-Men books or 0 Spider-Man books. But all these, I mean, there's a Power Pack miniseries coming out. It's hard to imagine that they would try pushing Power Pack through still when they're all things considered, you know.
It's just insane.
So we'll see. I mean,
in this environment,
probably
if
nothing
they
for the
just
next
told
month.
Diamond and comic book stores to go pound sand, they could make a lot of money just selling them digitally direct to consumers. Like, how many people would not just download stuff? You know, like, I don't know. I just, and I'm not saying I want comic book shops to fail.
Right.
I'm just saying if the system is that broken, I'd rather Marvel continue to exist than just stop in order to save comic book stores, you know?
Right. I mean, we'll see. It's hard to believe Disney doesn't have the. I was going to say Disney doesn't have the money, but I mean, obviously now that's an issue too, increasingly. But it doesn't have the logistics and stuff for their own distribution. Surely Disney owns a publisher or something, right?
Well, Marvel already does digital comics. Like, that's what
Right.
I don't
Well, digitally,
understand.
right? But that's yeah. I don't know. I don't think there's a single store owner that wants it, and it's weird. I mean, what other? I mean, there's like sewing and craft stores, but I would guess there's plenty of distributors for those. You
And
know
there's a lot of
what?
controversy of those staying open. I think there's also like a yeah, I feel like the major publishers have pretty much like promised the local comic shops that they would do what they can to keep them in business, that they see them as an important part of their business. And I think this is really going to test that relationship. Does Marvel eventually decide they would rather make money than keep them in business, even if it's a little bit of money, or do they want to risk ruining? I mean, because people could read things digitally and never want the paper copies again, do they want to take that chance and risk putting the local comic shops out of business, or do they want to risk losing money and going on that route?
It was already a very, very messy system to start with. So obviously this helps zero. Credit where credit's due. DC announced that they have $250,000 fund that they're giving out grants to comic stores. There are several disclaimer. I'm about to promote something. There are several indie publishers that are doing a half and half deal. So there's Scout Comics, obviously, which I'm doing a comic through later, hopefully.
Tell us more, Adam.
I've told you about that. Oh, you're being sarcastic. No,
yeah,
I mean, like shit show's still coming out sometime. I don't know when. But there's I know of Scout Comics, Black Mask, which does very good books. Matt Rosenberg has 4 Kids Walk into a Bank. I think that's Black Mask. And then TKO. TKO is dynamite if you haven't had any TKO books yet. But all 3 of these, if you order comics through their website and drop in a store name in the memo, they're donating half of the entire order to that store. So if your LCS is closed and you would still like to support it, that is a way to support it. For now, until, I mean, who knows when the hell comics are coming back? I mean, not for a month at least, I would imagine. Or more, much longer.
Yeah, I think what's so hard about this is I enjoy having a local comic book shop, and I do like them being around. I just worry that there's like this weird obsession with them that like is kind of like the old guard. Like, I love my local comic book shop, but I also know that it's a place that's mostly for 30 and 40-year-old white guys to hang around and talk about comic books. And so like, I just want the industry to broaden to more audiences, and that means more stores and more distribution channels. And sometimes I feel like fully launching ourselves into a future where the comic industry is broader than their traditional market is held back by this obsession with comic book stores. And it's not that I want them to die. I would like to have them and And I feel like the feeling of a lot of folks is that if we don't just be super protective about that entity, it'll die. And maybe that's true. Like maybe lots of people would buy comics at a gas station instead of a comic book store if that was available. I don't know. I just kind of wish the market could change. That's all.
Right. Maybe this is the cataclysm that causes that. Maybe this does that because shops realize, well, the sales we're losing to gas stations and Barnes and Nobles, Borders isn't still a place, is it? I don't know. And whatever other.
Yeah, I think the real danger is like Walgreens or Walmart, right? Like if you could pick up your weekly comics while picking up, Tylenol or like a soda, that is what people would do.
I know GameStop had tested doing weekly comic sales, except they pulled that real quick because GameStop's a mess in and of itself. Maybe this is what's gonna. It's hard to believe it's not going to change afterwards. Diamond's probably not coming back, so how in the hell are they going to distribute their comics? If like Disney does its own distribution and something, they're not going to limit it to comic stores. They're going to use whatever powers the mouse has and get it in front of as many people as possible. I have no idea. Maybe Marvel comics are already sold at the resorts and such. I don't know.
There used to be a spinner rack at the dinosaur concession stand in the old MGM. Now Hollywood Studios used to be the MGM Park. I only know this because I picked up the first issue of Generation. What was it called? The Age of Apocalypse version of Generation X. I remember it coming out while I was at Disney World and picking that comic up at that spot. Why I have that memory in my head, I don't know. But the only other Marvel news I saw this week, we did get a list of pops for Eternals. And listed was Crow, who is one of the Deviants. We have yet to have any cast members named or any Deviant characters given to us. Crow is kind of a leader of the Deviants. I'm going to say something that could be a spoiler for the movie if they do what's in the comics. So if you don't want that spoiled, mute for the next 20 seconds. Crow has he's known for having this like Romeo and Juliet type affair with Thena, right? Like they're not supposed to be in love, but they are. And so I think that would totally fit into some of the things we've seen from this movie. The idea of a deviant and Eternal who are in love with each other. But I was just excited to see that character because I think he's an interesting and good character in those comics. And it was interesting that we still have zero info on the villains for that movie. So,
there was one Celestial confirmed too, or did you say that?
No, I didn't say it because I forget the name. Which Celestial is it?
I did too. Starts with an A. I can't remember what.
It's like Aramesh or something.
One of the four that came to Earth in the Eternals #1. One of those. That's why I was wondering why they only did one. Is there only going to be is that going to end up being the big bad of the movie? This is the kaiju movie we always wanted.
Maybe. It's like a giant size pop too, right? Since it's a Celestial.
I don't know. I just saw a bullet point list of the names.
Oh, okay. Do you guys have anything else that you want to talk about, Marvel or otherwise? I'm about tapped out.
So the one thing looking through like Twitter from the past week, there was the discussion of cons and how this could lead to that live stream announcement con that you've always wanted, Caleb.
Yes.
So I'm personally hoping that everything just gets pushed to New York Comic Con and we actually get Marvel Studios at New York Comic Con doing a big blowout like they would normally do at San Diego or something. Because October sounds like the first time that people would be really willing to gather in large crowds. I mean, like looking at the schedules, even if San Diego happens, I think it'll be a scaled down version of San Diego. But New York Comic Con October sounds like a time when people would finally be willing to all be in one place and crowd together. Maybe, hopefully. So.
I mean, yeah, San Diego's not going to happen, right?
You know, my thought right now is that they'll do a smaller version. They'll allow people to get refunds.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, have practices, you know, safety practices in place or something. That's my guess right now.
Gotcha.
That they will do something, but they will allow refunds.
Certainly from a Marvel perspective, it's weird because I'm trying to think of how to say this. Like July, when you look at where July was compared to the old calendar, it's where January is now, right? Like July was between Black Widow and Eternals, but now Black Widows and Eternals, like Christmas or New Year's, is what's going to be between those two. And so you just wonder if you can have the hype train start at the same point, or it is interesting. It does seem like New York might be better timed as far as when they'll know stuff, because we haven't mentioned this. There's talk that they might just shut down production altogether until September and then spool everything back up in September so that they can have a date they feel confident about things being able to start again. That also would potentially push all these Marvel Plus shows. That's the other thing we don't have any idea about, is when these Disney Plus shows are going to hit and if they're going to have to scoot all those back as well.
All right.
Yeah. I like, and Michael T. Ford says they could give out Taskmaster promotional masks at New York Comic Con to hype Black Widow so people can wear the masks. They did that at Comic Con a couple of years ago for Venom. When I went to the Venom panel, they gave out Venom masks. And I really wished I still had mine. I totally just sold it on eBay like the next month. But they were a Venom mask. It was like a little cloth mask and it had the Venom mouth on it. So they've done that before, and it would be really cool. I think we'll see a lot at the first big con. We'll see a lot of masks as giveaways, as swag, mask swag.
I just looked it up, Adam. The Eternal is, or the Celestial is Arishem, and it is supposed to be a 10-inch pop. So, which makes sense. It's a big Celestial. All right. Anything else interesting from your experiences of quarantine? Rhiannon, how was fancy restaurant food on takeaway? Was that weird or was it good?
So for those that don't follow on Twitter, there's a Michelin star restaurant in my neighborhood, like a 1-star Michelin star Korean steakhouse that I ordered takeout from. The cool thing, so the restaurant is Kote and it's a Korean steakhouse. The cool thing is like, when you go there, it's a long drawn out, like they bring out a little bit of this and a little bit of this, and you slowly work your way through the meal. So having it all at once, like on my doorstep, it just wasn't the same. It was delicious. I won't be doing it again. I think my friends and I will all just be waiting to go when they reopen. Right. I think the orders, I can't remember all of my restaurant specials. That's the only big place I've ordered from so far. The restaurant specials, I think there was something about like, if you order or something, we'll let you know when we're reopening. Like you'll have first chance at a reservation when we reopen.
Ooh.
I mean, but otherwise, like I've done every sort of grocery delivery. If anybody wants advice on like how to get groceries, I order most of my shelf stable stuff from Target. And what I've liked about Target is like, if you order something and they don't have it in stock, they'll like keep your order. And when they have it in stock, they'll send it to you instead of just like, if I do Instacart or something, they'll just delete what you want, they're in the store right then. And if they don't have it, you're not getting it. I had a horrible Instacart experience, which I know there's a lot of controversy about Instacart right now, but I wasn't going to the grocery store, and it was the option I had. I feel like people can't get Amazon Prime to work. I've been getting.
It's a mess.
Yeah. Like I said, I've just been doing a meal kit, like subscription. My meals come already made. I stick them, I boil them for 6 minutes, and then I have food, and it's been delicious. Like I said, I'm probably eating way more than normal. I'm probably there was a fun little meme, like when we're done with this, does the 600-pound, the show that features 600-pound people just like call me up, or do I need to reach out to them? I've set up my home office. That was like last weekend, was getting my whole little home office area set up. That's why our Patreons that see my face now see like way more. I didn't set it up for podcasting, so this will probably evolve for the podcasting setup. But I don't know. I like my apartment. I like being here. So far, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine. And I think we're used to getting together and using podcasting. You know, we do our little video chat with this. So we get together and we talk to each other no matter where we are, no matter what the situation is. And I find it's way easier on my friends that have those plans in place, that are familiar with these systems. My poor mother is suffering from all of her friends, and my grandmother, they are used to their in-person contact. They are used to people stopping by, knocking on their door and hanging out with them a little bit. They are used to talking in person. And they are so out of anything to talk about at this point. So I think like folks that aren't as used to this as us are having a much harder time with it. But I honestly feel like I could just be locked in this apartment for a while before I ran out of things to do or ran out of human contact. Now, if the internet goes down, the power goes out, that's it. That's it. I'll be done.
Right. Oh, now I have to play board games? Oh, no.
Board games with myself. I'll be playing solitaire over and over.
Apparently, you can play Terraforming Mars solo. Did you know that? That's what the internet
I bet you could. I bet you could. But I can't because I don't have it. I always play my friend's copy.
This the podcast has been super helpful to me professionally, because like one of the things that I've had to do is broadcast. I think people that listen to the show know, like, I'm a preacher. We now have to do our services completely digitally, but there are all sorts of things I know about digital broadcasting or like internet broadcasting purely from this show that like we hit the ground running pretty quickly with that, even though we're a relatively small, group with not a lot of tech people. And it's been kind of weird how Marvel News Desk has set me up to be able to do all these things I never thought I'd have to do in a real job. So it made me think of that, Rhiannon, when you said like we're used to doing this. Like it's helped on a professional side too, that like talking to you guys every week has helped me figure out some of these things. I feel like we could maybe we need to look at trying to broadcast through YouTube again. I don't know. I mean, this Be Live thing has worked okay. I've gotten much better with the online broadcasting software that we tried to use and I couldn't ever get to work. Now I know how to get it to work. So
yeah. Michael T. Ford just threw in, and I've actually been chatting about this a little bit. He's had time to start up his podcast. It's called The Racial Draft. He has episode 3 coming soon. So our listeners, I mean, they've heard his name a lot.
Yep.
He's been a guest here with us. He's been a Patreon subscriber since the beginning. So definitely check that out. But yeah, I almost pulled out my my mic that I use for podcast. I ended up in charge of an all hands meeting for my coworkers through video chatting and all that, and I started to pull out my mic and everything for that to be high quality, but I didn't.
Yeah,
it was too much effort.
Let me go ahead and do a quick mailbag as we wrap up. On the last pod, Love Waffle had a lot of interesting and good thoughts about Black Widow and how it relates to Eternals and Falcon and Winter Soldier as far as scheduling stuff. I won't read too much about that because he commented long enough ago that it doesn't matter anymore and all that stuff got reshuffled. But thanks for the comments. Dave was wondering if Michael Mando's Scorpion tease might be related to the Spider-Man spinoff. Maybe they'll make a Scorpion movie or a Sinister Six movie. I really hope they don't make a Scorpion movie. I can't think of anything that would feel less interesting to me than a solo movie based on a guy that had 3 minutes of screen time in Spider-Man Homecoming. But that's all we've got on the website. Thanks for everybody that's checked in on us. We had a couple people asking if we're having another episode come out. Again, sorry if we've not communicated as well as we could, but we also just have been figuring out life. You know, I've been figuring out how to teach preschool for, if nothing else. So that's been an interesting experience. But yeah, I don't know. We're going to take it as take it as we see it kind of thing. I like doing it when we have things to talk about, and I don't mind talking to these guys otherwise. I guess what we'd love, if you want to give us feedback on Twitter or whatever, do you want a Marvel news desk that's just talking about the best takeout food that we got during quarantine? Like, do you want a
Pizza
potato
Ranch
podcast? Like, because I'm not against necessarily doing that. I don't want to put out a Marvel news desk and people be like, oh, all you did was talk about stupid stuff. You didn't talk about Marvel. And it's like, well, what is there to talk about? So maybe we'll do a reading group. We'll see. We'll figure that all out. But
Yeah. But if you have a discussion topic you want us to hear, send it to us. And maybe we'll talk about it.
Yeah. We were just talking about how hard it is to keep the show going when there's no real content. And just about the time real content was about to happen, it's not happening again. And so maybe we'll
At
get
least
lucky.
we had content about not having content this week.
Yeah. Maybe if they would just drop New Mutants on Disney Plus or on Hulu or whatever, we could do a New Mutants review pod. That would be fun. But it is weird that they have not given that a date, right? They gave all these other dates. Like Disney really reshuffled everything, but there is nothing about when
it's hitting streaming. It's got to be hitting streaming.
I was about to say they announced something that was going straight to Disney Plus.
Artemis
don't remember
Fowl.
what. Yeah, so that's going straight to Disney Plus. So I'm sure New Mutants, unless they think it's not worthy of Disney Plus and it's going to Hulu.
The thing, I think that's the holdup now. They have Disney Plus, and I think the argument now is, well, this is a Marvel movie, but it's a scary Marvel movie, and we definitely need content for Disney Plus. I don't think it's not a Disney Plus play. Can you imagine one of your kids coming across that?
But they won't. Like if they do it right and they keep it from the kids sections, I don't know. I mean, again, 10 Things I Hate About You is on Disney Plus, and that movie is definitely a 13 plus, depending on your sensibilities. I would say I want my kids to be at least 13, if not 16, before they see 10 Things I Hate About You. Like there are a lot of very explicit sex jokes in that movie, and it's sitting there on Disney Plus, and nobody said boo about it.
But a lot of that stuff can go across, over the head of kids, right? Whereas a face bursting through a wall is a little bit more out there on face value.
Maybe, but a line like, does this chick have beer flavored nipples or something? Like that doesn't really. That's not. That's. I mean, that's a 10 Things I Hate About You line. Or there's another scene where
I can confidently see I've never seen it.
Oh, there's another scene where somebody just literally draws a penis and nuts on a guy's face, and it's very obviously that. It's not innuendo though. That's the thing. That movie is.
There's actual. There's a. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it is. I mean, it'd be huge, but it's hard to believe it'd get a theatrical release at this point.
Yeah. So we'll see. All right. I think that's all I've got. You guys have anything else? Thanks for listening to the show. You can support us all the usual ways. We're keeping the Patreon up because we are still trying to make shows, and it does help us host. I know there's not as much content as we'd like to be there, so we want to thank you for supporting the show. If you're a supporter of us, it just helps keep things going. We haven't really pushed it strong because we know there's a lot of really good places to send money right now, and we're not in that much need. But we also appreciate you helping us pay for the things that we got to pay for. So Yeah, all the usual stuff. Tim Cox and Alvin, great job on all our stuff, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Cool. I'm gonna go bake scones.
Ooh, enjoy.
Bacon, cheddar, scones. Eat your heart out, Red Lobster.
Bacon cheddar. We'll see. We'll see. Well, I'll post pictures when I'm done. So, all right, guys. Have a good one.
All right, yeah,
See ya.
Stuff.